Oh boy, here we go. So I'm just gonna be creating some patches live today. Yeah, I wanted to just kind of create some sounds and enjoy the weekend by creating and crafting. So I've been kind of creating all day. So I'll need some feedback from those that are watching to let me know how the sound levels are and make sure that we're not clipping. Trying to check that out as best as I can on my angle. So I'll be muting myself for a second after I play this just to kind of hear some of the live stream because there's a delay. So hopefully I can tell whether or not the volume levels are okay. And of course I can't hear any of it, so that's not helpful. Here we go. Let's try this.
And of course, I can't hear any of it.
There we go.
That's not helpful. Let's try this. Of course, I can't hear it.
Okay, it seems like it sounds okay. We'll go from there. So,
okay, it seems like it sounds okay.
Let me mute the
We'll
YouTube stream here. And yeah, so essentially I'm creating some sounds and I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between different synthesizers over the weekend. I've been creating a lot of patches on the Omega 8, which is by Studio Electronics, and it's an analog synth. And then, so I created some really nice patches on it. And I thought to myself, man, I'd like to kind of do some similar patches on the Hydrasynth, and then of course that evolved as well into other patches. I'll play some of the Omega 8 real quick, just to give you an idea. Now I'm gonna run it through the analog heat plus effects. So this is kind of I tend to like to find effects boxes that work really well with specific synthesizers as opposed to just having them on a bus. I kind of like dedicate them. Like so, like I have a like a H9 Max is dedicated to my Jupiter 6. I have the analog heat plus effects is dedicated to my Omega 8, that sort of thing. So let's give it some level here. There's one, and then we'll do like bring this up a bit here. And now, and you can hear in this patch right here. So I'll turn the Omega 8 down now, turn the Hydrasynth back up, and I did a patch here that was kind of inspired by it, but just loosely inspired by it. So it's kind of what I've been doing today. I did this weird kind of bit reduction C64 kind of unison thing. So that was kind of fun. And now I'm just going to create from scratch here, just some kind of cool sounds. And feel free to pop in the chat if you have any questions or request of styles of sounds, whatever. I'm just kind of messing around, so it's good to get feedback and that sort of thing, just to kind of enjoy my day. But first, what I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do is I kind of like the way that on the SQ80 when you play the lower like the SQ80 is kind of like pseudo multi-sampled, um, and it's really low bit rate. So when you play away from the center of the note, it gets kind of gritty. And I kind of had an idea of doing some similar stuff there. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to take some random wavetable sounds that I'm making. So let's hear what this one is at. And I don't want to be too specific with it. Like I just kind of want to. I think that's nice. And then kind of bit reduce it a bit. About 6 is good. Right. And I'm gonna end up making it way less harsh, but the idea here is really to kind of let these sounds evolve in a slightly chunky way. So I'm gonna use an LFO to the wave scan, and the wave scan is gonna go. We'll have it go positive. So we'll do LFO 3 plus for unipolar, and I'm gonna slow it down a good bit. Trigger sources, trigger sync will be off, and then I'm gonna quantize the LFO. So now you have that kind of, so it's quantized at 33, which gives it that like little choppy. And we're still just using one oscillator here. I'm going to go ahead and set up, actually on Mutant 3, I'll do this. I'm going to set up a wave stack. I like using Mutant 2 as opposed to Mutant 1 for wave stacking, because that still leaves me Mutant 1 to kind of create, and mess with the raw sound, whereas the wave stack is duplicating that raw sound and kind of blurring it and whatnot. So it'll be good to kind of blend in as I go. And one thing I like to do is I'll play with like polyphonic aftertouch to the wave stack. So it'll bring in the dry wet of it, but it'll also bring in the amount of depth. And the depth on the dry wet or on the wave stack kind of causes the phase to blur of the copies of the waveform. So you can get this kind of chorusy weird sound out of it but per key as opposed to globally, which is really nice. So I'm going to map that right now, actually. So just a quick shortcut, LFO 5 to the wave stack here to Mutant 2, and then send that straight to dry wet, 100%. And instead of LFO 5, you just change that a couple turns to poly aftertouch. And then I'm going to do the same to the depth, and that'll go up maybe like 90, somewhere around there, and turn that to polyphonic aftertouch, so that when you play it, you can. So, yeah, it just kind of creates this nice blurring effect on the keys that you're playing with polyphonic aftertouch. Now, filtering is going to come in pretty important on this one. I want the filtering, I think, in my mind at least, I'm going to use a 1-pole because I want it to not be overly strong. Now, I may use either the 1-pole. The other one that's good for this kind of thing is the low-pass gate, which is also kind of like a 1-pole filter. So I kind of go between them, but the way the resonance reacts between those two filters is pretty different. Even though they're a similar slope, the resonance is quite different on them. So we'll go ahead, bring the envelope amount up about 30, drop the sustain down lower. Now my the way I have my Hydrasynth set up is my init patches aren't actually init. Like you'll see they say init 2, and the reason they say that is because I've set all of them up like in a kind of template way. So certain things are already in place before I even get started. For instance, if I go into my voice area, you'll see analog feel is at 19. Warm mode is already on. I should probably change it so that my stereo mode is in rotate, because I tend to use that more than anything, especially now with voice mod. Random phase is off. Vibrato amount, I keep it 1 instead of 2. I just like a little bit more subtle vibrato. I feel like 1 is plenty. And then snap is also off. I only have snap on when I'm doing something percussive or I need a key click sound, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, I keep snap off. Voice mod I have not set up on here. I know some people will go very, very subtle. I mean, myself included, will, not higher than like 25 or so on a lot of these, so that you can get really subtle amounts. Sometimes I'll do like one voice will be kind of really out of place, just to kind of emulate like when I would set up polyphonic stuff on my modular or whatever. It's like there's always one problematic voice, and it kind of would emulate that. So I have the voice mod is set up in here with some values, but I don't have it assigned to anything right now, and I'll usually do that more towards the end. So another part of that init 2 patch that I have is I have this kind of plucky sort of envelope here for my filter, which is pretty common for a lot of the patches that I like to do. And then if I want to have it kind of swoop in, I can just adjust the attack. And I'll give it a little bit more decay. I'm going to take it up to like maybe 2 seconds. And see, when you play those really low notes, it gets that, it's really, you hear like the air aliasing kind of thing, and you hear like this kind of crunchiness there with that low bit rate oscillator that I have in there. Again, I'm at 6 bits here. I should probably see about maybe zooming in. Let me know in the chat if you'd like the camera zoomed in a little bit more on the screen. I don't know how well you can see it. My preview window is pretty small here, so now that I have that, we'll go ahead and set up the second oscillator, which I'm not really going to use right away, but I like to have it set up. My oscillator levels are 94 right now and 91. And for oscillator 2, again, I'm going to use like kind of non-traditional shapes on this one, just because I like that kind of SQ80 sampled oscillator sound. Okay, so I kind of dig that. Now I'm going to take that down, and I'm actually going to control that from a macro so that it gives me a little bit more flexibility in how this patch is controlled overall when I'm done. So I'll take the macro control, we'll take it all up to 94.5. The button will also take it there so that I can just punch the oscillator in and out if I choose. Let's take it down so it's exact. Come on, there we go. We'll call that second so I can. And then I'm gonna have I'll have a modulation setup that is for manipulating that second oscillator. Okay, yeah. Let me zoom it in a little bit. We'll see what we can do here. I don't know this daggone camera very well either, so but I know that I can do it. So let's see. I did it earlier. Hold on. Let's do. Hold on. What are we doing here? I don't know what I'm doing with my life. There is a digital zoom on that I can do that was working good earlier. And I can't. I'm not tall enough. I need some extra feet. Let me see here. Let's raise this up a bit here. Menu, display. I don't know, man. Let's see if I can do this right here. Bam. Will that stay like that? If that'll stay like that, that'd be dope. You can see that pretty darn well, right? Man, if I actually got that to work and it doesn't just like revert, I'll be impressed with myself. So anyway, all right, so we have the second is here, right? And now I'm going to, as I hit the module select buttons, I'll just try to explain what I'm doing here. So yeah, we've got our filter set up with a 1 pole, and envelope amount is here at 31, cutoff 31, resonance is 35. I want this to be able to kind of go into this kind of band reject phaserish chorusy kind of weird sound without using effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use LFO1, which is obviously the filter envelope, to filter 2, but I'm also going to change the morph and the cutoff point and the amount of that LFO all at once. But first I want to set up the LFO. So I'm going to set the LFO up to a triangle wave. Set the rate relatively slow, 0.29. We'll change the trigger sync to off. And yeah, that should be good for now. So macro to 2 is going to go to filter 2, filter 2, filter 2. So these three are all going to do my thing here. So do my bidding. So we're going to drop the morph down to about half. And then we'll drop the cutoff, or actually raise the cutoff, excuse me. We'll raise that up. Maybe like 75, somewhere around that. I haven't heard it yet, so, you know, obviously we'll want to listen to it. And then the LFO amount is going to be really subtle. We'll do like maybe 5, something like that. So when I raise this, in theory, what should happen is I basically turn on a band reject filter that is going to start sweeping. Oh, you know what else we want to do? Let's also add some resonance. So we'll do resonance up here to like maybe 50, something. Maybe a little higher. Okay, so let me see where I'm at here. Yeah, we want this to actually go down. Make sure I did that right or not. So, yeah, this actually needs to go down. This needs to go up. I have these backwards. 64. And this needs to go down about 80. We'll go a little bit quicker here. Alright. And just checking my filters here a little bit. We'll add a little bit of key tracking to it. About 40. Alright, now coming back to that macro. Just kind of have to dial it in by ear a little bit, but it's pretty close. All right. So now I have that secondary control, and that's just going to be useful for as I create the patch down the road. I'll be able to have pretty drastic changes off of this, and I'll call this, we'll call it air. And I'm also going to add one other thing to this, and that is in the mixer. Let's send some noise through that filter as well. And a little bit of the envelope amount. Yeah, I'm digging that. All right. Also, due diligence. Let me set up my reverb now, because I know I'm going to use it later. So I always set up a. I'll set up my reverb dry wet. Will go to 128 on the knob and like about 46 or so on the button. So that's my preset for my reverb amount. And that way I can just kind of quickly punch reverb in and out as I'm working and decide what I like. So we'll go ahead and do that. And same with delay, because I know that I'm going to use delay and reverb. So here, delay is going to be like maybe 68, somewhere around there for the button, and then 128 for the knob. And then, of course, set your name. Okay, so now I'm going to actually I'll set the reverb up. Nice long reverb. We'll do like 10 seconds. Pre-delay, maybe 8 milliseconds, something like that. Give it some more low damping, maybe about 70. And high damping will be pretty high, like 96. And now the reverb or the delay. You see how with that poly aftertouch, you get that that blurring effect is going on up high, and that's that wave stack. While staying out of the way of the bass notes, which is really nice. I love doing that. Okay, so we have kind of like the fundamental here, and let's go ahead and just take this down. And I think one thing I want to do here is just to kind of rein everything in. On that second, when I bring in that second oscillator, I'm actually going to bring the overall level down of the amp just a bit, just to duck it a little bit. So we'll take it down by like 10. Do the same here. And basically what this is doing is this is just kind of keeping it so that when I turn it on and off, it's not so abrasive, you know? It's still going to bring in some weight to it, but it's just not going to overload your speakers and you know, create problems there. I do the same with drive. If I want to, let's set up actually a darkening agent for this. So we'll do filter is going to drop down a little bit, and then also I'm going to take down the envelope amount a little bit. So let's turn this up and hear where we're at. But I'm going to hit it with drive quite a bit. And see, for that, you're going to want to compensate that. So we'll go back over to amp. And this is all on one macro. And the amp is going to drop down by like 20. Maybe even a little bit more, 25. 20 is probably good. Maybe 22. So the button is turning, when I'm hitting button 5 right here, I'm turning this whole macro on and off that has all of those, you know, all those parameters. So maybe we'll go even just a touch darker than that. Good. Okay, so we'll name this, and we'll just call it darken. Okay, and now that I have those parameters set, and I kind of know what I like, I'll drop this. I'm going to set the button commands on here. About 16 for the cutoff, negative 16 for the cutoff. I kind of liked where the amp envelope went to. Maybe I'll back it off just a hair from what that was set to. The drive is going to stay pretty heavy. We'll do that around 84. And then amp level is going to drop down about 15. So now I can take darken off. And I can punch it in. Let's bring that amp level up just a hair. Yeah, that's good. It's a really kind of melancholy type of sound. Let's take the reverb and delay out. All right, now This is where we're going to introduce a lot of movement and um, interesting things going on here. So one thing I like to do is I'm going to take noise as an LFO source, but I'm going to bit reduce the crap out of it, right? So the idea here is that I want this to be like a really poor computer clock, really crappy kind of unstable oscillator sound that you would get from digital oscillators in a modular that's kind of DIY. So I'm using noise, but then I'm going to quantize it down pretty low. We'll take it down to like 5 and see how that goes. So now that I have that set up, I can take LFO4 and I'm going to run it over to pitch of oscillator 1 and LFO4 over to pitch of oscillator 2. And then I'm going to set these to a macro and they're going to go opposite of each other. So that's 4 and 5. So we'll do macro, macro. So this will be 5. And we'll have it go down by -5. Somewhere around there. Doesn't have to be exact for this. And then +5. We'll do +4.2. That's fine. That's fine. No one cares. All right, so now let's hear how it sounds as I blend it in. So it's pretty subtle. Oh, let's go ahead and do, this is supposed to be mod. Yeah. What are we doing here? What am I doing with my life? Hold on. I screwed something up there. So macro sign here. Mod. And mod. I did something funky there. 4 and 5. So again, we'll do like -5. -5. +5. Somewhere around there. All right, now, there it is. Yeah, that's like, to me, that's perfect. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. So we'll name that, what do we want to call that? I don't know. Maybe like, I don't know. Give me an idea from the chat. I have no idea what to call that. Maybe mangle? I don't know. For now, we'll go with mangle. I may have to change that later because I feel like that's not really what it is. But like you add reverb to that and the other thing that'll go really well with this is if you add some LFO to your pitch or even LFO to delay. It's really going to get that kind of lo-fi warble. And I know that modulating delay is a very dusty mango. So I know that modulating delay is a love or hate kind of thing for a lot of people, because it's, it can be so off kilter. So I'm gonna send LFO to delay time, and this is mod destination 6. Let's go ahead and do this to a macro, right? So we'll do mod destination 6. And it'll be real subtle, 0.8, and then on the knob maybe 1.5, which is probably way too much, but we'll see. And this will be like a warble control. But for this sort of patch, where you're really kind of going for that dystopian, broken future retro synth, I love it. Like, I'm all for that kind of stuff. It's going to be warb right now because I'm lazy. So. So now when we turn on the delay, now we want to, let's slow this down a little bit. We're going to change this to a triangle wave. And here's the key to this sort of thing, right? When I want to make a warble, right? Like it's not, you don't want to do just an LFO, like a single LFO. Well, you can. There's different ways of doing it, all right? So if you do just a triangle LFO, right, you get this really predictable warble that, and you end up just feeling nauseous, and it doesn't really get you where it is that you're trying to go. Where you're really probably trying to go is, you know, if you had a really beat up cassette and you were recording the radio or whatever back in the day, and that sucker got your tape would come out and then you'd have to use the pencil and wind it back up, right? One of the things that would always end up happening is at some point or another, you'd screw up when you're winding it back up and you'd crease the tape, right? So, like, as the tape is going around now, there's a crease in the tape, which kind of changes the speed, and it also changes the amplitude of the sound because it makes it get further away from the tape head, and it's like crunched together and then expanding, right? So there's a couple ways that you could do this. You can either have, so I had like the triangle LFO on there, and then you could modulate the speed of that LFO from another LFO. That's the obvious route, right? But here's the thing. You could also do this really, really well with your step LFOs, right? And when you do it with the step LFO, you want to use the smooth parameter, right? So the idea is you want to make your step LFO act like it's a cassette loop, right? So it's, maybe it's going up and down a little bit, but then at one point you're going to have a spike in it, right? And that's where that crinkle in your tape is. And then it's going to come back around and it's just going to keep looping. It's just going to keep looping around. So let's do that real quick. So I'm going to do a step LFO, right? And it's going to be, trigger sync is going to be off. And we'll actually turn the rate up a good bit just so that we can hear it as it's going, right? So like right now it's, so there's that, right? But we haven't set up the actual steps yet, and we're going to do that now. So we'll make it a little bit longer. 16 steps would be good. Should be at least. So I'm going to keep it pretty minimal steps throughout most of it, right? Like these are all going to be really small numbers. And then we'll have one spike at the end. And I'm just listening for it. There we go. Now I'm going to use the smooth parameter. And you'll hear like it's kind of pseudo predictable. So now you've got a tape, a true kind of tape warble on there. And again, going back to the macro aspect of this, this is something that you can punch in and out. So if If I just want it to be a straight delay, and I can turn the mangle off. What did I set for the mangle? Yeah, I did. Okay, so we'll set this back to 0 so that I can punch it in and out, right? So it's very straightforward. And then I can... So I like that. I like that. If you don't like that, that's fine. You can turn it off, but I like it. Yeah, so now we still have one macro that we can do on here. And what this macro is going to do is I want to really have this thing padify, right? So I can never really decide what I want to play. So I always like, even these like kind of more straightforward sounds, I'll have at least one control, usually two, that will allow me to go from a more like something that I can play like so to a more pad sound. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to take my attack is going to come up on the filter here. Okay. And then we'll also take attack on the amp, a little bit less than what I did on the filter, but okay. And we'll do the same for decay of the filter. We're going to make that a little bit longer. Decay on the filter was already a little bit long, so. And then we'll do some release on both of those. A good amount of release, actually. Now, a lot of the times I'll usually do these as two separate controls, attack and release, because I like to have control over that sort of thing. But sometimes one knob just kind of does it. I think more release is good. We'll go up here a good bit. Yeah, I like that. Maybe just a little bit more attack, though. Just a little bit. A little bit more decay, too. Now, I will admit, this is one of those places where the deluxe kind of shines because you have 16 voices as opposed to 8. So it does, when you're doing really long releases and really long attacks and that sort of thing, it's kind of a nice thing to have those extra voices for that. So we go from there. And actually, we'll call this, let's name it real quick just so I don't get lazy on myself. Yeah, so we'll call it Patty. All right, so now, oh, and let's set up the buttons for that too, because I do kind of like to be able to punch stuff in. And again, like, my button numbers are not going to be the same as my knob. The button numbers are usually a little bit more conservative because I'm going for a bit of a sweet spot with it, so that I can just kind of punch it in there. So let's see where we're at. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, so now we have that. We'll do darken, and the pad together. Yeah, I like that. Some reverb. Now, one thing that I like is, let me just see something here real quick. I'm going to actually modulate the reverb tone a little bit as well. And I will say, I don't feel like I'm getting what I really want out of the air. It's not quite where I want it. So maybe we'll edit this a bit here. Maybe take that morph up a little bit higher. It's a little bit better. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So, and that's a basic kind of lo-fi digital sounding you know, sound. I don't know. So we'll save that real quick. I'm gonna just call that Drunk Mango. What was it? Drunk Mango? A Dusty Drunk Mango? Yeah, something like that. We'll do something in that vein. We'll call it Dusty Mang. Yeah. So another aspect of these is that I'll do is that when I'm kind of creating these sounds like this, like one will kind of feed into another, and then I'll hit a breaking point, and that breaking point will be like a very opposite type of sound. So like I'll do a series of different pad styles, and then like the fourth one will just be like this really harmonically opposite bass line or something, you know. That's why as I scrolled through these patches, so before I started the stream, I said I was creating some patches earlier today. So like I had so you have that, and then you go to this. And then, of course, you got to prepare yourself because then it goes to. Very opposite sort of sound. But you'll see I have the attack and release here, which is of that same mindset where I can whack this up right here, and then this is a unison sound, so of course. But if I take this back to a poly, you know, you get that kind of thing going on there. And then of course the one we just did. I'll actually save it with those macros on there like that and be good to go. Yeah, so I think I'll end the stream there. I think that's a good enough place to end it without making this thing way crazy long as I normally do. But if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. If you hate the sound, that's cool. You can keep that to yourself. If you like it, you can tell me. Very sensitive. So but yeah, I just figured I'd share what I'm doing on my day off. It's supposed to be my day off, but you know, yes, day off. Day off. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and get outside and touch some grass, like I should be doing. So, peace.